Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Thursday Thought. Today is Thursday, June the 19th, 2025. And today, in recognition of the fact that June is designated as National Indigenous History Month, I'd like to share with you the recitation of a poem that was composed by Emily Pauline Johnson. I suspect that many of you will be familiar with that name of our early Canadian poet. Perhaps you were introduced to her work, as I was, in elementary school. For me, in that little one-room school I talked about last week. Pauline Johnson was born in 1861 in Brantford, Ontario. At a reserve, her father was Mohawk and her mother British. And apparently she became interested in writing at an early age, inspired by stories that were told to her by her paternal grandfather, especially on subjects related to their Indigenous heritage. As she continued her writing, she became very well known, not only for her skill as a poet, but also for her accomplishments as a public speaker and an entertainer, a performer. So she, in essence, was really one of Canada's first spoken word artists. And although I find it hard to imagine how she did this in the late 1800s, she managed to travel extensively throughout Canada and the United States and even Europe, entertaining large audiences. So knowing this, I was intrigued to think, I wonder if she had ever been to St. Mary's. So in consultation with Google, who we know knows everything, I discovered that yes, indeed, she had performed here at the Opera House, which is a magnificent stone building. It's now converted into businesses and apartments, and it's actually the location there at a coffee shop where our St. Mary's Poetry Circle meets on a monthly basis. So I was excited to know that, to think that quite literally we are walking in the footsteps of Pauline Johnson. I was fortunate a few summers ago to be in Stanley Park in Vancouver, along with a dear family friend, Judy Newman, who had arranged for this to happen. Thank you, Judy, for that great day. I managed to stand beside the monument that was built in her honor over her ashes. And she is the only person since 1886 who has been given the honor of being buried in Stanley Park. Apparently, she moved there prior to her death a few years. She died in 1913, a few days before her 52nd birthday, and she passed away of breast cancer. But she loved that whole area. She loved the natural beauty, the ties to her Indigenous roots, and she would not have seen this particular poem in print, nor would she have performed it in St. Mary's, because it was composed as her last complete poem before her death, and it was not published until after her death. In 1945, she was designated as a person of national historic significance. So I hope I'm able to do justice to this poem. It's called The Ballad of Yaada. In it, she mentions Lulu Island, which is part of the island chain in Richmond, British Columbia. It's a tragic love story, and who among us does not resonate with a love story? The Ballad of Yaada. There are fires on Lulu Island, and the sky is opalescent, with the pearl and purple tinting from the smoldering of peat. And the dream hills lift their summits in a sweeping hazy crescent, with the Capilano Canyon at their feet. There are fires on Lulu Island, and the smoke uplifting lingers in a faded scarf of fragrance as it creeps across the day. And the inlet and the narrows blur beneath its silent fingers, and the canyon is enfolded in its gray. But the sun, its face is veiling like a cloistered nun at vespers, as towards the altar candles of the night a censer swings, and the echo of tradition wakes from slumbering and whispers, where the Capilano River sobs and sings. It was Yaada, lovely Yaada, who first taught the stream its sighing, for 'twas silent till her coming, and was voiceless as the shore. But throughout the great forever it will sing the song undying, that the lips of lovers sing forevermore. He was chief of all the Squamish, and he ruled the coastal waters, and he warred upon her people in the distant Charlotte Isles. She, a winsome basket weaver, daintiest of Haida daughters, made him captive to her singing and her smiles, till his hands forgot to havoc, and his weapons lost their lusting, till his stormy eyes allured her from the land of totem poles, till she followed where he called her, followed with a woman's trusting, to the canyon where the Capilano rolls. And the women of the Haida plied in vain their magic powers, wailed for many moons her absence, wailed for many moons their prayer. Bring her back, O Squamish foemen, bring to us our Yaada flower. But the silence only answered their despair. But the men were swift to battle, swift to cross the coastal waters, swift to war and swift of weapon, swift to paddle trackless miles, crept with stealth along the canyon, stole her from her lover, and brought her once again onto the distant Charlotte Isles. But she faded, ever faded, and her eyes were ever turning southward toward the Capilano, while her voice had hushed its song, and her riven heart repeated words that on her lips were burning. Not to friend, but unto foeman I belong. Give me back my Squamish lover. Though you hate, I still must love him. Give me back the rugged canyon where my heart must ever be, where his lodge awaits my coming, and the dream hills lift above him, and the Capilano learned its song from me. But through long forgotten seasons, moons too many to be numbered, he yet waited by the canyon. She called across the years, and the soul within the river, though centuries had slumbered, woke to sob a song of womanly tears. For her little lonely spirit sought the Capilano Canyon when she died among the Haidas in the land of totem poles. And you yet may hear her singing to her lover-like companion if you listen to the river as it rolls. But 'tis only when the pearl and purple smoke is idly swinging from the fires on Lulu Island to the hazy mountain crest that the undertone of sobbing echoes through the river's singing in the Capilano Canyon of the West. By Emily Pauline Johnson. I hope you have a great week ahead and that you'll come back for next week's Thursday Thought. I'll be concluding this series in mid-July, but until then, I welcome your presence and have a great week. Goodbye for now.